Alright, if you're new to Photoshop, you're just getting into it, and everything you do just seems like it's a big, conjumbled mess, and nothing is organized, and you just can't make sense of it. Your problem is that you probably haven't figured out how to work with your layers yet. Hi, I'm James, and I've been teaching graphic design for over 6 years, mostly in Photoshop. And one of the things that I most often see or realize that my students struggle with is understanding layers and how they work together, and how you can utilize them and manipulate them to create the composition that you are seeking to create for whatever it is you're doing. So in this video today, I'm going to show you how you can utilize your layers, add things to your layers to create unique compositions that up your Photoshop game, next tier, next level, so that you not only understand it better, but so that you can continue to grow and improve. There's a lot within layers and how you utilize it, and so I'm going to kind of break those down, and I'm just going to do a simple project with you, walking you through my process and how I do it. I'll talk through the common mistakes that my students have. If you stick through all the way through the end on this video, once I'm done talking about layers and kind of everything about layers, I'm going to show you kind of one of my favorite things to do, and that students always like, whoa, I can't believe I did that. It's like their first big step in Photoshop. I'm going to share that with you what it is. So with that being said, let's roll into it. All right, so once you get your Photoshop to open up and load in here, I'm just going to start with new file. So I'm going to click on new file. And for this, just the default Photoshop size. I'm just going to set my screen up again, the default here. So this is what you're probably looking at once you get into Photoshop, open up your canvas. This is probably pretty generic to what you have. What I like to do though, once I'm working in a project, is this layers panel. It gets pretty filled, and then you lose sight of a lot of things. So I just grab this tab, and it's just like a tab on your browser, and you can pull it out, you can move it. Once you see that blue bar, it fully expands and it just stretches that whole way. I prefer working with it that way. So what we're going to do now here is, first thing is I'm going to upload my first image. For this, I just looked up Adobe stock photos and just whatever I found for it. But I found a car, a city street, and like a moon, night sky type image. But I'm going to add those in with my file, place embedded. If you watch my previous video, I talked about open. Doesn't open in this canvas. It opens the photo in a new window. You don't want to do that. You want it on this canvas all layered together, right? So file, place embedded is going to do that. Here's my photos. I played around with this earlier. I didn't like the yellow one, how it turned out, so I'm going to switch to this red one. Place that in there. I'm going to shrink it down some. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to isolate my Camaro from the background. I want to select the Camaro, delete everything else. I don't want it, don't need it. So I'm going to crop that out. One thing to remember before you make any changes or edits to your images is you have to do something called rasterizing it. And I just tell my students, for layman's terms on it, all you have to do, or what rasterizing does, is just makes the image from the image file, and it makes it into an editable file. So that's what that rasterize is. Mine's down here in the bottom. Sometimes it's up in the middle. So depending on what you're doing or what version of Photoshop you have, will determine where that's at. But to rasterize the image so I can make edits to it. All right, I'm just going to use my quick selection for this. Up top here with that quick selection tool, you have like the add to selection and subtract from selection. So you'll have to toggle back and forth to get a clean one. And for this, I'm going to just like the whole body of the car, everything in it, and then I'm going to invert it and select and crop with the background. So I'm just going to get hopefully a good clean selection here. All right, and then once I have it, what I want to do, I try to teach my students to use non-destructive edits or changes to their projects, that if they ever come back to it or need to change something, they have that data still stored in Photoshop when you do a non-destructive, so like a layer mask. And so what I'm going to do is, with this all selected, this car selected, I'm just going to click on my create layer mask icon. I'll make sure my Camaro is selected, and at the bottom of my layers, it's a little rectangle with a circle in it. I'm just going to hit that layer mask. You can see that in my layers now, it opened up a new like little side window. That's the mask kind of placed on top of that layer itself, and that just blends it out. Okay, so if I would have just deleted it, I would never be able to get that back. Once I close out of Photoshop, that data is fully erased, right? If I delete and I do a bunch of stuff, I can Control Z all the way back to get back to my spot. Whereas this layer mask allows me to make changes, adjustments at any point in time, as long as I'm still working through this project. So it's super helpful in how you utilize it. So now that I'm on this layer mask, I'm going to grab my brush tool, and with white and black, it has to be white and black down here. If it's not, you can hit this little miniature one and it's going to switch that, right? So I got like a red in here, or gray, whatever. You can switch that, okay? And then what I'm going to do is with white selected, it's going to restore those pixels. It's going to restore parts of that image, okay? But if I don't want that, if I want to clean it up, if I switch to black, you can just switch back and forth with the X on your keyboard, that black is going to take it away or help blend it out some. So I'm just going to kind of clean up some of my selection here. Get it as nice as I can, but it's not going to be perfect for what we're doing today. So, all right, there's my car now. I'm done with that for now. So what I want to do now is I'm going to add in my city street background. So let's add that in here as well. So to add that, again, I'm not going to go File, Open. That's going to open a new window outside of my Camaro layer or project here. So I'm going to go to File, Place Embedded. And I'm going to do my street photo, and I'm going to stretch it out so it fits. And then my students are always like, they're instantly like, oh, Polwarth, what happened, you know? Well, that's the layers part, right? Anything on top of your layers, whatever's on the top of that layer section, is going to be in the forefront or foreground of your photo. So to adjust that, to move that, I'm going to click and hold on my street layer and drag it below the Camaro. Now my Camaro is on the street, okay? So big part of layers, knowing where things are positioned and how to position them so that they're layered on top of each other the way you want. But so here, I'm going to shrink my Camaro down a little bit, Control T, shrink it down so it actually looks like it, you know, somewhat fits here. I'm going to make it look a little bit bigger maybe, but before I get there, that looks good to me. Now, something I like to add to this just to make it a little bit more realistic and also help blend out some of the sloppy selection that I have on the bottom of the car, is I'm going to add a drop shadow. So on my layers panel, I have these layer blending styles with this FX tab, and these gives me a ton of different blending options that I have. I'll eventually get through some of them, but for this one, I'm just going to focus on this drop shadow, and this is just going to create a drop shadow for my object, okay? And so I'm just going to create kind of like a little bit of underbody shadow. You can adjust like the orientation of where that's coming from. I'm just going to stay on top, and I want close to the car because I'm going to turn this to a night, so the shadow's not going to be too big. Okay, I'm going to roll with that. Now, I want to turn my photo into a night photo. So I'm going to crop out the sky here on my street photo. I'm going to select my street, again, rasterize your layer. So right click on street, rasterize the layer. And I like my quick selection brush, it just works for me. So I'm just going to come in, grab that, and delete. That's kind of hard because it's so light anyway, but it's out of there. Now what I want to do is I'm going to add that nighttime photo into that gap that I have on my canvas, right? So if I turn my background off, you can see that that part of the photo is transparent right here. So I'm going to put my night sky there, File, Place Embedded, night sky with a big moon, stretch her out, okay? Again, positioning, right? Where do I want it to fall? All right, so I'm going to position this below, and then if I grab my move tool, I can move this around and place it wherever I want. For me, I want to place it just kind of peeking out over the top of those buildings there. I think that looks kind of good there, so I'm going to place it. And then what I want to do is, obviously my street photo looks like daytime, which I have a night sky, so I'm going to blend that out. So on top of I'm going to highlight my street photo, and then with that street photo selected, I'm going to go down to my fill adjustments. Bottom of my layers, circle, white and black circle is a fill adjustment layer. I'm going to select that. I'm going to go to this color lookup option, and all these options create a new layer of like a color match or color tone that blends over everything. You'll see what that looks like in a second. For this one, I'm going to go down to moonlight, and kind of gives me like a moonlight vibe to the photo, okay? I don't want that moonlight though to be placed on my night sky because the night sky is already night. So I just want it on my city background. So in this properties panel, this white box with like the downward arrow is your clipping mask. I'm going to clip that color lookup, that moonlight lookup, just to that street photo because it's on top of that street photo. So with it on top, I'm going to clip it so it's just affecting this one layer, not all of them. Okay, I'm going to lower my opacity down to like 80, and then looking at it, it still looks like it's pretty bright, the street photo. So I'm just going to adjust the image properties from here. So I'm just going to click on image with street selected, adjustments, and go brightness and contrast. And I'm just going to drop this down to 75. And so that's kind of you can see the difference there as I undo and redo it. So that's pretty good there. So there's a ton that you can do within your layers, right? You got layer properties, blending options, fill adjustments, layer masks, all sorts of stuff. I kind of just whizzed over it all really quickly. We'll continue to dive into it as I continue going through and teaching you these lessons here. But I promised you that I'll show you my favorite kind of skill or hack, whatever you want to call it, in Photoshop. And we're going to change the color of our Camaro right now. Okay. So what I'm going to do for my Camaro to do that, before we wrap up here, is I'm going to select that layer and make sure that you're selecting the actual layer, not the layer mask, right? So I want to select my layer. I'm going to come in here, and with that quick selection brush, I'm going to select just the red. I don't want the windows, I don't want the wheels, I don't want the black hood either. Just the red is all I want. All right, so once I have it finally all selected, I was struggling there for a bit. What I want to do is I'm going to duplicate this layer. So I'm going to press Control J on my keyboard. And I'm just going to hide the viewing. And that's actually a pretty good selection for what we have. And I'm not going to undo it. If you're doing this for an actual project, I would go back and clean it up a little bit more, or maybe even find a better picture of a Camaro. But that's pretty good selection, I'd say. So on that one that I just copied, what I want to do is I'm going to grab my paint bucket tool. I'm going to choose a color, whatever color you want. It doesn't matter. I'm going to go kind of this darker green. I'm going to click OK. With my paint bucket, make sure your tolerance is at 255. Sometimes if it's low, it's not going to work. But I'm going to just paint that in. I left my window in. But you'll get the point here either way. Now that I have that painted on this layer one, what I'm going to do is up here is my layer blending options where it says normal. I'm going to come down. You can see it. There's a bunch of different options of how you can blend that paint in, but essentially that's all you're doing is you're blending that paint with the bottom layer. Okay, so either hue or color generally looks the best for that blending. So what that's doing is just blending the color of my green into my original car layer there. Okay, again, if I was actually doing a project for something for you, I'd go in and clean that up. I would get rid of the window, but you get the points. Okay, and wrapping this all up, layers, a ton to it. This is just a starting block for you so you can see kind of how you manipulate, how you can work through different avenues of manipulation and skills that you need to know in it, like layer masks, fill adjustments, blending options. Okay, so there's a lot that you need to know and start understanding. Best practice is just get in, play around, do something similar to what I did. I had 3 images and created kind of a unique composition with it. Okay, so get a couple of images, Adobe stock, wherever you get them, Google, pictures you've taken, whatever it is, just throw them together, see what you can come up with. It's the best way you'll learn. I guarantee it. You learn the best through failure and repetition. So keep diving in, keep getting into it. Don't be overwhelmed. Don't be intimidated by Photoshop. I know it's a huge platform, but this is the best starting block for you. It's just getting in small doses, right? 3 images isn't overwhelming. You got to see a lot of how I use and work within just basically the layer panel all in and of itself, with a couple of side tools, but most everything I did was in that layer panel. So that being said, if you like this video, if you learned something from it, please hit that like and subscribe button down below. It would mean the world to me. Give me a comment on something that you learned or something that you look forward to as I continue pushing these videos out, trying to teach you and help you better understand Photoshop as a platform. With that being said, I'll see you in the next one.